In this first training video for MintsApp 2.0, I want to teach you guys about how to use this software, and then in future training lessons I'm going to be giving you more of my recommendations about what to actually do with the software, how to create the polls with it in terms of the content and the various things that you can do with it to help to increase your Amazon sales. For this lesson though, we're just going to be focusing on how to actually use it so you can get familiar with it and be able to carry out all the other things we're going to be talking about in the future lessons. So with that said, once you get logged into your MintsApp 2.0 account, the first thing I would recommend for you to do is to go up to the top of the page and click on Account. Now here you have a number of settings that are going to be important. Everything over in the left-hand sidebar. If you're going to be using newsletter services where you want to be generating email leads, then you would want to go to the integrations page and go ahead and set up whatever email provider it is you use. Aweber or GetResponse are some of the most common ones. So you just simply select on one of these, punch in your information from the relevant account and get that connected up, and then you can easily implement these lead generation campaigns within your MintsApp polls in the future. The other page here, language defaults. I think this page is pretty important, and it's something that can be easily overlooked. When you are creating your polls, there are certain areas of the poll that are created by default for you. Up in the corner on my example ones that I showed you guys, there was the word vote because you're placing your vote on that image, on the question that is being presented. However, you don't have to use that default text if you don't want to. You can change that. Simply come in here and click on custom, and then you can provide any value you want to for it. For the ratings, it uses the word rate, and you can also change that. The votes that give you a choice between two different options, they have this or set up in the middle. You can change that too. And then the share text that is in the corner of your poll. You can also change that if you want. And finally, you have your social sharing icons, where if you want to add in an icon for Facebook or Twitter or Google to use within these sharing places in MintsApp, you can override the default stuff and put those in too. So not necessarily everybody will want to be making changes to this page or even setting up an email newsletter integration, but it is important to know that this stuff is here for those that do want to be able to utilize those features. So now I want to move on to talk about the actual creation of polls and ratings within MintsApp. When you're on your main project page here, any one of your existing projects that shows up can actually have multiple polls and ratings located within it. For example, this one here has 4 different items. This one here has 13 different items. So each one of these, you can essentially create these different projects to be different websites or different types of campaigns that you might be looking to carry out. That way you can actually track the stats across all of them together. For example, right here it's telling me how many people I've reached. I can go into any one of these and see how many people have visited, how many votes I've had, how many click-throughs I have had. So you can track the stats of all of these too. So with that said, Simply create a new project to get started. Once you name your project and click on Create, just give it a second and it'll close this window for you automatically. Then scroll down to the bottom and you'll see your new project added in. When you click on Add New, you're instantly going to be given a choice between creating a poll or creating a rating. That initial project creation screen, it seems as though each individual product or project can be either a group of polls or a group of ratings. So if you're working on one particular website and maybe you want to have a dedicated project for that website, if you wanted to use both polls and ratings, you may actually have to create two different projects for this. One to use your polls in and the other one to do your ratings. I'll go ahead and click on rating now and show you guys this one. To get started with, you have a choice between thumbs up and thumbs down or letting people rate it with a number of stars. If you're looking for more of a yes or no type of a response, the thumb up and thumbs down will work good. If you're looking at something like a product rating perhaps, the stars is an excellent way to go because you get to rate 1 through 5 stars on these. So once you have selected what you want to use for your project, no matter whether you're doing a poll or a rating, it all works the same way. You're going to end up on this screen that you see right now. The important parts here are the two sections for your poll or your rating. You have the question section, and then you have what happens after somebody places their vote. So to edit either of these areas, you can just simply click on them and start editing over in the sidebar. Now what's really important in terms of setting up each of these polls and ratings is to simply go through all the different options that are available to you. You have things like design, where you can control the different design elements of this, such as the colors of the background, the text colors, and things of that nature. All of your choices are up here. You just simply click on one of these and then you can select a new color here, say for example for my highlight. And I can change it to a dark highlight instead. I don't think I can preview because I haven't set this up yet. Now, the basic tab, this is going to control everything that is happening after the vote. So this is going to be our screen. Once somebody places a vote, what do we want to happen with this poll? Where do we want to direct people to? What action do we want to try to get them to complete? You have a number of different choices. I will be going back through these in one of the future lessons to actually talk to you about how this stuff is used, my recommendations for putting all these things in action and how to apply this to your Amazon sites. For now though, I simply want to point these out. You can request to share. This would be choosing different social buttons that you want to have included on there so people can share it to social media accounts. You can work on building viral traffic that way. You can automatically redirect people to a specific URL. That's not my most favorite option to use there. However, it could still be used to create something very customized. Basically, if you want something to happen after a vote is placed and you don't feel like the options are available to you here, you could auto redirect them to a URL that is on your own website, and then whatever it is that you wanted to try to carry out, you then try to carry it out on that specific page instead. You also have opt-in, where you can generate email leads, and you can simply connect these up to your email providers. You can choose what fields to show, and you can even specify all the text that goes along with it. And finally, we have the display a banner. This one is pretty straightforward. It just gives you a start shopping button that you can click, but of course you can change the text of that button. You can also specify the actual URL that will be visited when somebody clicks on that. So while it's intended to be like a shopping button or a buy now type of button, you can use that for pretty much anything. If you want to generate followers on a Facebook fan page or something like that, you can pop that URL in here and say follow us on Facebook in the button. So you can use these things for a wide variety of different actions. Finally, under Advanced, we have two more options here: Allow Comments and Voter Authentication. Allow Comments is actually pretty cool. Unfortunately, I can't demonstrate this to you. It's not unlocked in my preview version here, and I'm not going to be getting access to the complete version of this until I can purchase it on April the 4th, just like everybody else. However, in that, they do allow commenting to take place, to where people can place a vote and even comment on whatever it is that your vote is about. So you can actually generate even more interaction with your polls using that system. So I think that's something that could be really useful if you feel like people will actually talk about whatever it is that your poll is ultimately about. And finally, voter authentication simply makes sure that people haven't voted twice. It kind of tracks them. I don't find it super important to have this enabled. I think most people can get away without it. Let me step back here for just a moment. I want to go into a project that I already have completed for you, so you can actually see this in action. If you have an existing project and you want to change it, you need to go into the project like you have seen me do here, and then go up into the right-hand corner, hover over these three dots, and then click on Edit. And you can actually change this later on if you need to. With any poll then that you have already created, you have the question and the post to vote here. Whichever area you want to see or try to edit, you can simply click on it, and it's going to automatically change that for you up here. Adding in additional choices to my poll, it's really simple to do this way. Most of the stuff works in this manner as far as setting it up. I'll be walking you through this here in just a few though. The one thing I wanted to point out, over here you have these two links. One says poll and one says page. When you click on poll, this is the default view where you're seeing the actual poll or the rating that you are designing. Page, however, this actually sets up a standalone website page that you could direct people to if you wanted to. The advantage here is that you don't have to have this based on your own website if you don't want to. You could set these up and have them bringing in traffic off of Facebook, for example. And all of these pages could ultimately help to funnel people back to your own website. All of the aspects of this page can be edited too. Over here on the left, you have different templates that you can use to change the design of how it's all going to look. You have backgrounds that can be set for the header, the body, and the footer area. You can also go into each of these individual areas and simply change it. You have your share options down at the bottom and even the little copyright notice. So this whole page, it's essentially the same thing as your individual one, except this is something that you can embed into other websites. And this page is something that stands alone by itself. So you don't necessarily have to have a website to be able to do this. You could, in theory, be running completely off of social media accounts, for example. Let's say you just had a Facebook account and a Facebook fan page and a Facebook group and maybe an email newsletter that you wanted to build leads on. But maybe you don't have a website that you actually promote or send people to. Maybe you just promote things directly, affiliate links directly through Facebook or through email newsletters. You could use these standalone poll pages in situations like that and not even have a website of your own. Just use this as kind of the middleman area. Now, when you are finished with one of your polls and you're ready to put this into your website, go over here to Embed, and then you have these different options available for you. You can share them on social media down below, or you can use these different options up here. iframe is the one that you're most commonly going to be using. Just select all of the code here from iframe, copy it, and then paste this into your website. If you're using WordPress, which I do believe a lot of people watching this will be using WordPress, this is the code that you want to use, this iframe code right here. I'm not a big fan of the JavaScript version. I've tried this out myself. It really doesn't work that great trying to integrate it in with WordPress. If you used something other than WordPress, if it was a custom programmed website, this JavaScript may work out, but it almost seems like it conflicts with some of the default JavaScript stuff in WordPress. So I wouldn't recommend using it for that. Use iframe for WordPress instead. The web page here is simply a URL. You can't just put this into your WordPress site, for example. It's just going to be a link on a page if you were to do something like that. What this is an actual web page. This is the page that I was showing you before that you can edit. So that gives you the URL of that web page. So you can directly promote this page if you want to. You have your poll. You still get the responses from the poll and can direct people along from that poll how you did before. You have your social sharing options set up. And then you can even have something set up here to forward people along to your own website if you do have a site that this would all be connected to. So this is all completely customizable and something that you could integrate into your campaigns if you had a need for it, or if you didn't have your own website to actually use to go with it. So with that said, I want to create a really quick poll here for you, just to show you how this works. I'm within a project. I can go up here to create a new poll to add it on to the existing stuff. This is one that I simply created and named, but have not actually proceeded with doing anything for it. When you're creating a poll, you get a choice between a classic poll, a binary poll, or a multi-poll. The classic poll lets you have an image behind the entire poll. It's just one image. And then you can have multiple choices as far as what you want the person to be choosing. My example ad where I asked how many hours of sleep you get each night, that was using a classic poll. My other example though, where I asked whether you prefer to sleep cool or warm, that was a binary poll. It's an either or type of choice. I'm not a big fan of the multi-poll. The multi-poll really just seems to be similar to the classic poll, except you don't have a background image. You specify these thumbnail images for the circles that go next to each of the poll choices. So it's more of a plain type of poll. I don't really like the way that it looks as much as the other two. However, you're more than welcome to try it out. Maybe it is something that you'll like the look of or that you feel like will fit in with the design of your site. The binary poll, I didn't mention before, each choice that you are offering, the two choices, you can set a different background image for each of those choices. So here you're going to have one background image, here you're going to have two, and here you're not going to have any. However, for each choice that you do, you're going to have to specify a thumbnail image to go along with it. So with that said, to start up one of these, just simply click on one and it will load it up for you like you see here. A lot of these areas you can just edit directly into it. So just as an example, to show you a recreation of my sleep poll that I did, I can type in the question, how many hours of sleep do you get each night? Anytime you see this little camera icon, this means you can insert an image. So you just click on it. You can upload new images to the library if you want, or then you can just simply scroll through all the different choices and pick one to add it in. Once you add an image to it, you can then click on the image and drag it around, assuming it was a larger image, and you may be able to reposition it within your setup here. Next up, we have the actual choices. Each place where it says type here, this is a possible choice. If I wanted to delete it, I have the little X over here. And finally, I can add in new choices by just clicking on add a choice. So here I can say 5 hours or less. Here I can say 6 hours and 7 hours, 8 hours, and 9 hours or more. So this takes care of my entire poll, at least the initial question side of it. Next up though, I have the post vote. This is going to be what happens after somebody places their vote. They're going to be shown this screen. And this is based on my post vote action under this basic tab. So I can request to share. That's what you see on the screen here. I can auto redirect to a URL. I can, this part I should mention, the most useful thing about this, something that you don't really have with any of the other options. For example, when you're displaying a banner, this banner is something that's going to be shown to people no matter what they choose as far as voting. Your different options that you have for them, you can actually serve up different content depending on what they have selected. This takes it to a whole nother level. I really recommend, if you feel like it is within your power to try to go for something like this, base your content on the responses that people make. So for example, if somebody indicated that they sleep 5 hours or less every night, you might want to recommend some products to them, or some kind of sleeping guide or something of that nature. It could even be like a free gift. Hey, we notice you're not getting enough sleep every night. This can be really unhealthy to you long term. We have this sleeping guide that has a lot of tips and recommendations that can apply to people that do not get enough sleep each night. And we'd like to offer this to you for free for a download. Just give us your email address, tell us where to send it. Boom, you've generated a lead doing something like that. And you can't really target it quite that good unless you can make it dependent upon what people actually answer in their poll. So with that said, using this auto redirect to a URL option, you have these different choices where you can auto redirect, and this seems to be based on what people have actually voted. So I have 5 choices. I have 5 possibilities here for where I can redirect people to. So I could actually set up custom pages on my own website, lead generation pages, that would ask people to enter in their email address, but it could be geared specifically towards what this question is really all about. Any of these other choices that you have in here, they all work the same way. You just select your post action and you fill in the details that they're asking you for. For display a banner, you just change your button. I could say shop on Amazon, and then here I can just provide my Amazon affiliate link into the URL. Pretty straightforward and easy to use. So this should give you a basic overview of how MintsApp 2.0 works, and also how to use this system to be able to create your own polls and ratings. Again, as I mentioned, in the future classes in this series, I'm going to be talking more specifically about what you should actually be doing with these polls, how you should go about creating them, what kind of content should go into them, and then ultimately what purposes you should use them for to benefit your Amazon affiliate websites.